Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Mena, and things look a little different here because my regular studio has been converted to a seventh grade virtual classroom. So rather than just switch everything up over there, I kind of just slapped up a curtain. I'm sitting on my bedroom floor with my computer's on a stool, and I'm just using the sunshine for my lighting. And look how fancy I am today. I went out last week and bought myself a fancy jewelry set. I was celebrating my newfound independence. I keep gaining more and more independence from my false belief systems, and this one was such a big a big moment for me that I went ahead and spoiled myself. Look how fancy. Those are all real plastic. So let me, I never have plans. I have little things that turn in my head. Oh, I just realized I didn't put any of my bling on. I got so dazzled by this one, I skipped all the rest. Oh well. So, so I don't have an order to these things. I go, I have this thing I do. I have this neighborhood that's right by me. It's the next neighborhood over, and these houses are kind of tracked, kind of, semi-customizable, my neighborhood. But over there, it's all just beautiful custom homes. So I just get lost in this neighborhood. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to. And I get super stoned and I listen to music. And that's when my stuff comes in. So I've been doing a lot of driving. And it's then that I rehearse rehearse what I'm going to say. I just play it in my mind. So I never know what's going to fall out. I did take some notes. Hopefully I remember everything. But this video, I gotta explain. I kind of was thinking so much stuff's going on. Okay, start over. So what I'm still processing and dealing with is understanding my relationship with the third twin, with Jesse. And I don't even really feel like I can call him the third twin anymore because I was kind of considering him a romantic twin. So, Michael was number one, Fairy Boy was number two, and Jesse was number three, even though the roles reversed. But now that I see or realize that he was not a romantic twin, I can't put him in that same category. So while he was a twin relationship, they're not all meant to be romantic. So technically speaking, he would be the fourth in line. I've had two oppressors and two, I don't know what to call the others. I guess love interests, but I still don't know what's going on with that. I'll talk about that in a little bit because there has been a shift. But let me start by, I'm going to go back and refer to the story that I've been on a roll telling about my whole decision to give Jesse a chance based on this past life story and about how I'd said, okay, fuck it, let's just do this shit. And I set up a trip and, well, he set it up. I suggested it. He set it up. He did all the legwork. But then, the repeat pattern started over again of how he just came on so strong and my aversion dial cranked back up. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm supposed to be learning something. I'm not supposed to be doing this particular part of, it's not that I wasn't supposed to be doing that part of the journey, but I realized that I needed to put a stop to things again. And if you'll remember the first time around, I had believed that Jesse was a reflection of myself. I believed that all of the horrible feelings, and I gotta talk shit about him. I don't gotta talk shit about him, but see, this is my story. And he played a role for me. So while it sounds like I'm talking shit, it's just really my story. It's not gossip if it's my story. It's not spreading rumors if it's my truth. So I accept all of the responsibility for any of the hurt and discomfort I may cause him. And I do feel bad about that. I don't like being in a cunt. I don't like to be responsible for anybody else's hurt, which is one of the reasons I got myself into this mess, is because I want to be nice to everybody. So now I have to realize this part of it, that whole first layer I did with Jesse was, I didn't speak my whole truth because I didn't understand my whole truth. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but what that was my feelings towards Jesse were genuine. He did give me a sense of ew. He did give me a sense of feeling chased and stalked. And again, I didn't feel fear for my life. that kind of, remember I compared it to being chased in the forest by the guy in the hockey mask. So while it wasn't a fear for my life, it was a fear of just being touched by this person. And that was so, it just seemed, it didn't seem like I was supposed to say that about another person on my show, because we're supposed to be nice to the people that are nice to us. And he did show me a lot of kindnesses. He did pour a lot of love on me. But again, I have to go back to that story of the oppressors, in that many times that's what they are. They are representations of love. They are people that love you. And I can't say for sure that Jesse is an abuser, an oppressor, or a narcissistic manipulator. I can't say that he is or he isn't, but that's the experience he provided for me. And my whole life, I've talked about my husband, like my conflict with my husband, and he has some, I think maybe we all have a tad of narcissistic tendencies, because we don't like to self-reflect. But in my husband's case, he really is an awesome dad and provider, and he takes care of us and he loves us all so much. But one of his personal problems is that he can't accept responsibility for the things that he does that are kind of fucked up, because it makes him feel bad about himself. So he's like, I have to always be this perfect human being. So when I do something wrong, it has to be that or that. So that's his own issue, but I internalize it because I feel like I get blamed for everything. So it's a huge battle. It's a huge trigger. I see how I need to break free from that. And I did very much so in this experience with Jesse, because taking him out of it for a second. Well, no, putting him back in. Remember last time I said that I finally said to him, I'm like, this does not feel right to me, and I have decided to change my mind, and I don't want to go anymore. Or I'm not sure. I still wasn't sure. I was in a place of not knowing what the fuck was going on. I just know that inside it just felt like the absolute wrong thing to do. So that was one of the things I was to learn, is that follow that gut feeling. I really believed that he was a self-reflection. And the reason I believed that is because I'm so used to being blamed that I felt like all these ugly feelings have to be about me. It's my fault. I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that has to get fixed. He's just loving me, but I'm the one that needs the inner work so that I can be ready to receive that love. So I dumped all of that garbage on me. And we do that all the time. And because, as I'm going through all this stuff in my mind, I realize that, I'm digging deeper, and I'm realizing that he is an oppressor, and he is a representative of not only the men in the brothel that paid to have sex with me, paid to rape me pretty much, because even though I gave consent, I never wanted to do it. So it's a form of coercion in a way. If you want to be able to feed your little sister, then you're going to have to fuck this man. So do it. Here's the money. Here's the exchange. You go lie down and fuck him for survival. That is not necessarily consent. So he represented that man. And in this or men, I don't know. And in this life, I repeated that, and I would feel like afraid to say no, because I wasn't trying to feed my sister, but I was trying to feed my heart, and I didn't want the rejection. So I was going to do what he said. And they really, so think about, if you've had this experience with anybody, I'm just going to use mine because mine was through, through boys. And, I love you, or, I don't even get told that very often, but you're so pretty. And, all of the things that they say and they pour on you. And so many times, they just shit on you afterwards, or if you say no, they shit on you beforehand. And that was the lesson. That was the crossing of the threshold with Jesse, is that when he rejected me because he got pissed at me. And again, I'm not sure how much to say and not say, because I want to be true to myself. And one of the reasons I want to be true to myself is not to bash him, but I want to teach you guys that it is possible to speak out against somebody that has been kind to you. Even if everybody else likes him. That's one of the problems with an oppressor too. Because I got to a place where I felt like and these are just, my feelings. When I say all of my friends, I really only have like a small little handful of people that are my people. But he was nice to all of them. Everybody liked him. And I was thinking about like a movie. I don't know one in particular, but I'm sure there's movies or books or stories or real life stuff in which and I'm going to go with the women. I know the roles flip, but I'm just going with women because that's what I am. where the husband, the mate, the man, whoever it is a complete fuck to her behind closed doors, but out in public he's nice to everybody. So everybody downplays this woman's struggles. That's how I felt. I felt that everybody was fooled by him. And when I told my story recently and I gave examples of how why I felt this way, like how he triggered things in me, I kind of sugarcoated it. I did the same thing with the mama issues when I spoke about the reasons that I had to leave Shiny and my relationship with Allison. I sugarcoated it because I didn't want to start shit. But that's one of the problems, is that we don't want to create waves, so we keep quiet. That's fucked up. So I feel like I have to kind of speak out, despite the fact that I'm going to hurt people that didn't really mean to be unkind. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But because I realize that this is like a representation of other things, I believe that their intentions weren't as devious as the original. Jesse didn't actually pay to have sex with me. He didn't really hire me. However, more than once, he actually compared me to a prostitute. And I don't think any girl would appreciate that, but one who's trying to deal with healing from a life as a prostitute, it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm going to share something else that he did. Again, this is my story, and I kind of think of like celebrities that do their tell-all books. They may rock some boats, they may make some waves, but it's their truth, and they're allowed to say whatever they want. And Jesse's allowed to refute anything I have to say, but I got kind of a clear conscience, because if you took all of our private threads and posted them, I would be very comfortable with everybody reading everything I had to say. And I'm not so sure he'd feel the same way, because he did make inappropriate comments to me quite a few times, even though I'd set boundaries and say, can't say those things to me. But here's an example of one of them. And again, part of me wants to apologize, like I'm being mean to somebody, and I kind of am. But at the same time, I'm allowed to speak out and tell my story, and so are you, because this isn't your fault. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. But one of the things he said to me was, he was actually very sweet at first. And he said, I want to just, take you and treat you like a queen and spoil you rotten, and just things like that, things that girls normally might like to hear. But because I was never attracted to him, I didn't really want to hear these things from him, so it rubbed me the wrong way. So my response was, remember, I'm not interested in being taken care of and treated like a queen. I'm on a path to independence. I want to take care of myself. And his comeback was, well, what I really meant was that I wanted to take you for the weekend and fuck you real good and send you back home. Something along those lines, that vulgar. He wanted to fuck me and send me home when the weekend was done. How is that supposed to make somebody who's dealing with their life as a prostitute? It didn't feel very good. So I know he was trying to match my level of independence or whatever. And I don't know. I think maybe that was his way of backtracking and letting me know, no, I don't want to treat you like a queen and keep you in my little cage or whatever. I'm going to send you back home. I don't think he meant to be hurtful. I think he was trying to present a scenario that I could live with, and it was the wrong scenario. I don't even want that from the others. I believe that, well, I got a little story about that. At one point, I believed that I would just have like this big epic romance, and then my feelings of love would transmute and we would become friends. I don't know. That's kind of, and I don't really have an expectation of that. That's just kind of what I thought would probably or might happen, but I don't know. So in my mind, I'm trying to think of, even though I set all these boundaries with Jesse, I'm still blaming myself for the way he spoke to me. And the ways in which I would do this was like, well, I have a big mouth on me. I make no secret about my, my sexuality and all that stuff. I talk about everything. So I'm like, okay, so I guess maybe it's my fault because of the way I talk. He feels, welcome to speak to me in the same way. So I blamed myself for that. And then I'm thinking, you know what? I talk about all kinds of stuff, and I talk about men and I talk about women. None of my female friends have messaged me about their vaginas. That doesn't happen. So that kind of stuff was just inappropriate to me. I didn't want that. I didn't ask for it. Just because I say on my video that I like sucking dick doesn't mean I want personal messages from other men showing me their dicks. And I'm not, he did not give me a dick pic, I promise. Nothing like that. But I'm just using that as an example of where I can talk about it and then people take liberties and think, oh, she's like that. Maybe they do take liberties. Maybe they do think that they can talk to me that way because of the way I talk, but that's not true. That's the exact same thing as saying that, well, her shorts were too short. She asked for it. She drank too much alcohol. She was just waiting for a rape to happen. That's a bunch of horse shit because the other person needs to take responsibility and realize this is the wrong thing to do. She gets to wear whatever she wants. I don't get to rape her because of it. So, another reason that I kind of let him talk to me the way he did was because I did the same thing to Michael. So much sex just came out in these, super juicy, sexy fuck letters. And I was just releasing and releasing. Part of a Kundalini awakening is acting out inappropriately in sexual ways. And for me, I don't know about everybody else, but for me, I feel like that was exacerbated because of the path I'm on, because of the healing I'm doing. So I kind of made an allowance for him, again, saying, well, if I did it, he did it. And not that I was necessarily blaming myself for it, but I was letting myself be spoken to in a way I didn't like, making an excuse again for him. While he's still a nice guy, he's just going through some shit. So once I realized that it wasn't ever me that I had those ugly, nasty feelings for, but for him, then I was like, I gotta quit internalizing this shit. And as I'm thinking about all this stuff, I was going on in my mind about, now I have a whole new appreciation for the passion that Heather had for the Black Lives Matter movement. I tried so hard to jump on board and do the right thing. It just never, I'm not saying I don't care about it. I do. I'm so glad Heather's taking care of that stuff because she truly is passionate. She truly wants to make a change. I want a change to happen. I'm just not focused there. So I couldn't jump on board. And, we channeled her great-great-grandpa Cayetano a while back, and he basically said, well, that's not your path. That's not your calling. Well, it wasn't soon after that I realized that, I was putting two and two together and seeing that, the next thing to blow up on the internet after Black Lives Matter was the pedophile shit and the sex trafficking shit. And even though I walked into that brothel all by myself as a young teenage girl out of desperation, I was still being exploited and used for sex. So it makes sense. Heather and I do the same thing at the same time, just in different contexts. So while her pool was to help, I still don't know how to say it, the not white people. She got nothing against whitey. She just wants to include people of other races, skin colors. I don't know what to call it. I'm clueless about that. And speaking of that, I was thinking about I went out one night with my friend and we were laughing and just being inappropriate and coming up with ridiculous hashtags. And one of my best inappropriate ones was white privilege matters. But in a way, it can, in this context I'm about to share about. Because I'm not drawn to the Black Lives Matter movement, again, I support it. It's just not my calling. That made me feel like I wasn't born into any kind of, situation in where that will affect me, because my focus does have to lie elsewhere. So it makes sense that I chose to be born into, super white girl, a super white girl family, and all of the privileges that come with being a white girl, and I'm ignorant to a lot of it. I get that. But I didn't need that particular batch of work. So white privilege does matter in a way. Spiritually speaking, it can be very, very beneficial. So then I was thinking, okay, so what's the equivalent of my movement? And just in the middle of my meltdown while driving around that neighborhood, super stoned and crying and listening to music and releasing and whatever else it is, my brain says, Sex Lives Matter. And I started laughing so hard because Well, that was just a funny one. And while I have no intention of actually starting a Sex Lives Matter movement, I think it would be very successful, but that's not the purpose of it. But I always love the way I can just crack myself up in the middle of a snot and tear-filled meltdown. So Sex Lives Matter. And so I know many of us have sex traumas. If you're following along on my story, there's a chance that you might too, because you're drawn to my story. So you're allowed to speak out against your offenders. You're allowed to tell your mom that your uncle looked at you in a fucked up way. You're allowed to tell your family that your dad raped you. You're allowed to say all of this stuff. You're allowed to. Who gives a fuck if it hurts that person's feeling? Who gives a fuck if that person believes you? It's your story and you're allowed to tell it. Open that up. Open that up and speak. All right? It's not your fault. You didn't bring it on yourself. Nothing. They did it. They ought to know. So after having realized that I wasn't having this romantic relationship with Jesse, and he wasn't a mirror. He wasn't reflecting how I felt about myself. My next layer, I went back into that place. I flat out said, I'm not doing anything with this guy. And then I fell back into that low vibration in which I believed all the fucking stories again and thought that everything was my problem. I had to get to that place of saying, no, it's not my problem. So that's what the second layer was me realizing that it was him and not me. Let me look at my notes because I want to talk about that. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So, remember that whole story I told about how Jesse's heart chakra turned this way and mine turned that way because he needed to love somebody and I needed to be loved by somebody? I started thinking, well, what the fuck was that about? Because didn't that sound smart? Didn't the puzzle pieces, didn't that just match? Well, I really don't know what his heart chakra is doing. Remember also when I said that I don't see how we can get enough inner work done by September for this meet in Colorado? And I was more referring to him because many of the things he said to me were coming from being in a place of victimhood. He blamed me for a lot of things. He wanted me to feel this way or that way. He kept giving me his power. And, I think I mentioned, well, he told me he wasn't going to watch these videos anymore, just give them a break. And I don't blame him. He knows I'm telling my story and that my story, went south. And then he said, unless you think I should. And he gave me that power. And then he did the same thing. He said, I derailed. I got to get back to the other story, but I'm on this one. He said that he was thinking about or decided to not go to Stardust, to, change his mind, get his money back and not go. And he said to make it easier on both of us. And that pissed me off because I felt like he was giving me the power again. It's like, quit putting me in this position to decide for you. And I actually kind of encouraged him. I said, you do whatever you want. You do you. But it's possible that the guides use these events to help people reconnect. I was still not even sure what. I still thought he might be a romantic twin. So I was like, do what you want, but it's possible that we're supposed to meet up here. I go, there's no reason to decide right now. I'll give you your refund immediately or later on. You decide. And really, I don't think there's any reason to be rash anyway. And he does do that. He gets pissed off. He blows things off. And I haven't read his messages. I don't know if he's apologized to the things he said to me and the things he blamed on me, or if he just, because I read his post and he did admit that he lashed out at me, but he basically said that I can't stay mad at her though. He didn't necessarily, I don't know. It felt like his explanation felt like an excuse rather than true ownership, because next he said that his next decision was to just shut down off Facebook. And then he's like, fuck that. I'm not going to let anything that happens on this journey interfere with these friends I've made online. So it's like, I felt like I'm hearing that Carrie pissed me off and I was a dick, but I'm not going to leave my friends on Facebook because I'm a great person or something like that. That's how it read to me. So maybe his private messages are different, but seeing that, it didn't really take ownership. And there's been so many other things where he's handed me the power. Well, I handed him the power and I'm about to take it right back. And the way in which I handed him the power was when I said, you know what? don't make me decide for you if you're going to go or not go to the event. Don't give me that power. But then I realized, I don't want him there, and I'm giving him the decision to decide for me whether or not he's going to go. But I don't have to have anybody there that makes me feel uncomfortable. That's one of the ways in which you step into your power, is to not put yourself in a position or situation in which you're near your oppressors, your offenders. You can shut that shit all the way down. I get to do whatever I want, even though he's part of this group, and I know he's part of the soul family, and I know he's here to learn and give lessons through me and other people, because we're in this tangly web and we all belong together on the other side and contract all these bullshit earth games in order to grow. I don't have to have anybody here where I don't want to, near me. And what's ironic is I chose to share some stories about my relationship with Allison in the last video. And one of the things I chose to share about was me having to tell her, you can't come to Stardust. I don't want you there. And now here I am doing it again. I'm going to do it again. I'm not going to let him decide for me whether or not he's going to be there, because I'm claiming my power. And by the time this video airs, I will have told him that, no, I don't want you there, and I'm going to return your money. And I'm not even sure. I don't know if I owe an apology for that or not. I do think the whole thing sucks, but I do see the expanded place. I do know on the flip side we'll, get a big laugh out of it. Although here it feels very serious. I do feel a bit of a jerk to say the things that I'm saying. But again, I have to quit worrying about what other people think about me. I have a clear conscience. I am pure of heart. And if somebody chooses to speak to me in a way when I've asked them not to speak to me that way, then any consequence that follows that, that's their problem. Maybe he shouldn't have said that, right? Maybe that man shouldn't have raped his daughter if he didn't want people to know. If he didn't want to go to jail, then maybe he shouldn't have molested that little kid, right? So you have to take ownership for your shit. And if somebody tattles on you, then that's your problem. Maybe you shouldn't give them a reason to tattle on you about. And again, I said I sugarcoated the reasons why I had to break off of these relationships. I just mentioned the one about telling Allison, I had to put that boundary down. You can't go to Stardust. That was kind of a chill way of saying everything. I didn't get deep. I went like this deep. And just let me reassure you that while these relationships are meant to represent something else, they still have to piss you off enough right now to get you to do what you were supposed to do, or not what you were supposed to do, but what you didn't do before, because you didn't have the healing inside. You didn't have the self-power, the self-love to stand up for yourself at one point. So you have to be triggered. And the triggers are, they're kind of yucky sometimes. They're not just representations. He really said these things to me. So one of the other things I mentioned in that last video that Allison had done when she was scared about like those attachments or whatever it was, and from fear and from love and protection, I know she requested, or she didn't even request, she told me, because I didn't have a voice and I was the bitch. She told me that you can't be friends with those people because they're dangerous. So remember, I was in this place, or now, and my mom did the same thing. She was pissed off at my cousins and said, you can't talk to them anymore. So I already had this filter of feeling like I don't want anybody to ever not have a friendship with somebody else because of me and my issues. That's very important to me. I would never ask anybody. It's so interesting that the two stories I chose to share about are relevant right now. I just picked two at random because I thought they were like the least offensive to the other people. But then they ended up being very relevant. So the reason in which this friend thing is relevant this time is go back to me feeling like all of my friends think that this guy is the nicest guy. And that also played on me feeling like I'm the wrong one. I'm the bad one. Because if everybody likes him, including all these people that I love, that I must be wrong. They see how great he is. So it must be all on me. But I had this... So coming into this, remember, I don't want anybody to unfriend anybody because of me. Never. Don't do that. But I was doing a joyride video with my girls last week. It ended up not recording right. But what happened at the end, after we pressed stop and we had a private conversation, I was telling her telling the girls the things that I'm saying to you right now, but I told the other things that went on behind closed doors inside that private chat. And in the middle of me telling this story, Carrie says, I'm unfriending him. And that made me feel so uncomfortable because I don't want, don't do that. It makes me feel icky. But then, and I was going to talk to her about it later, but before I got a chance, driving around that neighborhood again on a different day, I realized how much that meant to me. And I bawled my brains out, and I was so grateful. And what that meant to me was that this one girl had my back no matter what. She didn't give a fuck what kind of guy he was. She didn't give a fuck how nice he was to her or anybody else. She didn't give a fuck that I may be misreading anything. She didn't care about any of that. The only thing she cared about was letting me know that I got your back 100%, no matter what. And that was that green chakra dial turning down. It wasn't about Jesse or romance or anything else. Maybe it was, maybe it is still, but what I learned was that remember so long ago Denise said that you're denying yourself something. You think that you're not deserving of something. And I don't mean to have your kids go up and get you a glass of water. It's something bigger that you don't even know that you deserve. And I think that was it. I think it was me feeling like I deserve 100% support from those that tell me that they love me the most, And Carrie, I love this girl. And she's very special to me. But everybody can agree that she is not Heather. So I started to tell Heather about this stuff. And she got very confused because she's like, a long time ago I offered to unfriend him for you and you said no. And I'm like, I know, because that's where I was. And when all was said and done, I really didn't want her to do it. She goes, I'm doing it anyway because I love you. And then I had to think to myself, how does that make me feel? How does that make me feel? And even though it made me feel kind of petty and bitchy, it also made me feel so loved and so supported. And Heather hates that she had to present that lesson to me because, my feelings were so hurt by her decision. And we went back and forth with it a little bit. And this is the interesting part. I saw them engaging, I was like, I don't want to see his name even his name makes me angry. And I saw them interacting in a post about something. And I thought it was somebody else's post altogether. And it pissed me off because here she is being like, having my back privately, but publicly she's yucking it up with him. And I was like, that's wrong. That feels like betrayal. And so I went on this big old kick about how can you do that? How can you be this way here and this way here? It makes everything you say feel false. And she says, well, I'm not going to be ugly to somebody. I realize that you have your things going on, but that doesn't mean, I'm going to be rude to somebody else because of it. And I'm thinking, well, you didn't have to interact with him. That was a choice. But then, once I realized that it was her post and he commented and she interacted with her own comments on her own post, that was a different story. So she kind of got to play this role for me without actually doing the offense. So once we figured everything out, I don't have to harbor that grudge. I just think that was I don't know if that was on purpose or not, if I made that mistake intentionally. And I wondered, did Fairy Girl trick my eyes? Did Facebook make me see it in the wrong way? Whatever it was, because it was and I had to eat my words. I said, I am so sorry. I made such a mistake. I didn't understand that. And I said, to tell the truth, it still served as a trigger. I still got from point A to point B. And again, she felt really bad for having to provide that experience for me. However, it had to be her because I don't have a mama, but I love her so much. So to me, it was the equivalent of saying, Mama, Mama. love me more, then you need to be nice to this guy that's just, your acquaintance, they're friends, but still, she's my girl, and I wanted to be 100% supported by her. The feelings that this guy evoked inside of me were just so, I cannot express to you enough how bad that relationship made me feel, and I look back on it, I'm like, what the fucking fuck? But I see I had to go that route. I wouldn't have understood any of this if I didn't have to go that route of blaming myself and then feeling like, oh, of course you could be his friend, back to like, thank you for honoring me the most. I can't. I can't begin to express how much that healed my heart. And it really helped alleviate, because I feel like I gotta do all this on my own. Like, I'm the only one I can depend on. I'm on this quest for independence. And I've never had a mom to, have my back like that. And while I do have my dad, even my dad, he played into that role. If you're a prostitute, go prostitute yourself with your mom and go prostitute yourself with those men at the taxi clubs or whatever, I'm talking about. So I had to learn, I had to like fight for it with Heather. I needed for her to believe or whatever, be over here with me that he's okay, he's nice, whatever it was, so that I can come over here and tell her. If she did it automatically on her own, I would not have been able to tell her. I would not have been able to voice that I need somebody to love me this much. And then she did. And then she loved me so much that she chose me over him. And that does sound fucked up, but if you're going to put it in the context, we're healing our inner children. Shouldn't the mama always love the 14-year-old girl more than she likes the man that's trying to pay to rape her? Right? So, I have another story that I think that thing with Heather and that green chakra, I think that it affected me in a much bigger way. Remember I told you that Michael came back out of the blue and he sent that song and he really, he has such an effect on me. And so because it triggered in me emotions, I was able to release, and I was able to come to the decision to tell my relationship with Jesse to fuck off. I'm done. You are not a romantic partner. We are each other's bad guys. We are here to hurt each other, break each other, reset each other. We are not preparing for a relationship with each other. So I see that I'm just as much his bad guy as he is my bad guy. It's the way it is. That's how healing is. So, but the interesting thing about Michael, this little exchange with Michael, is that, I told you about that dream hug. I've been having that dream hug I had, and because I'm so traumatized by sex, I haven't been able to have my regular, fantasies during my insomnia. So I've just been fantasizing about that hug. So I've been thinking about him, and my heart's been, blowing up for him. And then that interaction we had, my heart just skyrocketed. And like songs that I'd never heard before, I'd hear on the radio, and they would just squeeze my heart chakra, reminding me of him. I'd never heard the song before, and I'd cry and I'd drool, and I was like, wow, what is this? And before he contacted me, he contacted me at the end of July, mid-July, I was like, wow, next month on August 17th, that's going to be the 6-year anniversary from when my heart instantly cracked open for him. So I had it in my mind I was going to commemorate that moment and just write him, just give him an update and pour a little love on him and tell him about that dream hug, which I got an opportunity to tell before then. But before he messaged me, this was my plan. So he beat me to it. He got to me first. But I still just felt this need to write him, and it just wouldn't go away. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to jump into this thing, and I'm going to give it my all. This poor guy. I wrote him a 20-page, 5,000-word message, catching him up on all of the stuff and the role he played in the brothel and the role everybody played in the brothel, all the people that I figured out and all that stuff. And then he wrote me back and he said something that just didn't sit well with me. And it just, this is how I walked around for a couple days. So I sent this on August 17th, exactly 6 years after the moment my heart cracked open for him, the very first time we ever communicated. And he just left me in such a stupor. And he said something similar to me in the past. And the guides have mentioned something that related to that in the past. But I didn't really put it together until this third time this same kind of thing has come up. And just as quickly as my love for him turned on, it seems to have turned off. And I didn't realize it at first, but I never left that like feeling of stupor. Like, what is that? And I became free of him on that same day, 6 years later. And the thing he said to me, and it's his own stuff. It wasn't anything about me, but it just made me, because I always say I don't know him. He's like a stranger. But when I heard this, I was like, this does not appeal to me. And it was such a turnoff that was the trigger I guess I needed to decide I don't want to have a romance with this guy. So now I'm walking around in this place going, this is unfamiliar, because she had recently cranked up, Fairy Girl had recently cranked up that, I used to say you were a constant layer in my consciousness. It's like he was always there. That's how it was for the other two too. For Fairy Boy, it was, it was yummy. With Michael, it was yummy. But with Jesse, it always felt like, get out of my thoughts, quit stalking me. It didn't feel good at all. So I had this like couple weeks or whatever of feeling just amazing, loving on him and wondering is this where the shift comes? Does he come back to me now? But remember, he's having a baby. The timing isn't right. However, when I went to see him, I was married with 3 kids and we just bought a new house. He's got his first kid on the way and just bought a new house. So to me, I was like, the guides don't give a shit about that stuff, but it really doesn't feel right. I don't even know if I will. And by will, I mean, will reconnect with him in one way or another. And right now, I don't even care if I do. And I'm trying to decide what my feelings for him are. And I really don't know. It's like a void. I'm not mad at him. I'm not sad about him. I have a little compassion because of my own filter and my own like gears turning about what might be going on. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if what I'm thinking is reality, because it got me over that, over that hump. And I'm not romantically in love with him. I don't want to fuck him. I don't know how I feel about him. I think I must care about him. I think there must be love, but I'm feeling like this sense of void. And my friend Jane again, I keep talking about her. I'm like going to read every single thing she puts out right now because we are just so in the same place. She put out an article in my group, a few groups, but I read it from mine. And this wasn't even an article that was hers. She just liked it well enough to share it with others. And it was so long, but I skimmed it. And one of the things it spoke about is the void you feel once you cross a threshold and don't know what's next. I've been in a place for 6 years of loving this guy, and all of a sudden it's just done. And I feel like Forrest Gump. Remember, he just ran and he ran and he ran and he ran. And then one day he decided, I'm done running. I'm done. I'm done chasing. I'm done loving. I'm done on this twin ride. I'm just done. There was no like slowing down, because remember, it was cranked up one day, turned off the next. That is so weird to me. I don't know why I should be surprised, because that's how it always flips on instantly. So then I tried to think about my feelings for Fairy Boy, because once I started doing this stuff with Jesse, like I said, I really turned off like any kind of like sex stuff. I couldn't fantasize about the sexy stuff, the romantic stuff. I wasn't into any of that stuff. And that's why I clung to Michael and his hug. So Fairy Boy just kind of like faded out of my, my awareness. And I would, and then so once I got over this threshold with Jesse and feeling okay again, I could kind of fantasize about Michael a little bit. So I tried to poke in and see if I could do the same with Fairy Boy. And I couldn't even find him in my fantasies. He's gone from my imagination. He fell off Facebook even. He's just gone. And so I was like wondering the same thing. Well, do I love him? And I went through the whole thing. How do I feel about him? Because with Michael, I don't know if you remember, but he like represented everything to me. He is the one I incarnate with the most. So he felt like a parent, a sibling, a child, a friend, a lover. He feels like all of it to me. So when I went and had those fantasies of the hug, it was a place of being comforted by somebody I considered safe. But it never got that deep with Fairy Boy. He always felt like, I was crazy about him. I was very much in love with him and very, very attracted to him. And we had a true friendship. We really enjoyed each other's company and we laugh and all that stuff. But where I never had that with, Michael. And so he has a different vibe. Since I didn't reach out to him, it just kind of fell off. So now when I think about him, I'm just as unclear about my feelings for him too. However, he is really cute and he is really fun and I do really like him. So I wouldn't mind if a romance picked back up with him. He doesn't have any of the ties that Michael does. There's no baby on the way. There's no new house to move into. So I can't say I don't want to spend time with him, but I can say that I won't be heartbroken if it doesn't happen. I don't know how I feel about these men that I've been chasing and so in love with for so long. My heart just went ahead and healed itself up. Once I came to all these conclusions about Jesse and then, me needing a love from a mama and then this, that, and the other. And it just all snowballed, avalanched and went, and I feel free. And for the first time in maybe forever, maybe my whole life, I don't know, because you're always pining away for the future. Not only am I not worried about some bullshit I gotta do with Jesse, no more inner work, I'm so done with that one. No more am I worried about the future. I'm no longer pining away for it and dreaming and hoping for it. And in that article that my friend Jane posted, it spoke about you're in the void. You've released all this shit. So now's the time to become mindful of your thoughts. Once you've let go of all this stuff, you're in a place to start creating. So choose wisely. Make your thoughts that you send out to the universe to manifest the things that you do want. We've all been told that, but now I understand that. I understand this place of void. And I don't really know what I want yet. I have like vague feelings about it. I really have fantasies of being the real spiritual housewives of Houston or the real metaphysical moms of Houston or whatever. I have my three girls with me. I have Sarah and Carrie and Tiffany, and we just hit it off so well. I would just love to, recruit a couple others, bring my girl H in sometimes and just be all luxurious. That's my fantasy around touring around and having camera crews film us drinking our champagne and eating all of our fancy organic meals at the fancy restaurants and doing all that fun stuff. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. And if that doesn't happen, then how about just me? Because, that's 4 people you got to manifest for. That's a challenge. We all got families and shit. But I'll go around the world and I'll travel and I'll drink my fancy cocktails and eat my fancy foods and ride my fancy yachts. I'm not a very fancy girl, so probably more like a rowboat, but whatever, I'll take it. I'd like to be out floating on that water. So that's where I'm at right now. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. It went away. What the fuck was it? Something about my friends. Oh, one last thing. And I gotta just throw this out there because it's interesting to me. And all this stuff's going on like between Carrie and how much I appreciated her instant support of me and my plight. No questions asked. And then I got Heather where I'm like doing this tug of war with and trying to, express myself. And she's trying to express herself. And we finally got there. And then there's Sarah, who is so neutral and so in the middle. She still offered the support to Jesse and, thanks for sharing. And I got to admit, it kind of irritated me because it was along those lines of all my friends thinking he's so great, not understanding what's going on behind closed doors and how I really feel. But at the same time, because I don't want my situation to ever dictate how, what your friendship's going to be like. Also, I know that she comes from a place of riding above all of the world's shitstorms. I would never ask her to dip into mine just for me. So I was thinking to myself, I don't, and I'm going to tell her this today. I'm taking my twins over to her house, and because, 2020, there's no rules in 2020. So we're going to have a Christmas swing party, and we're having all red and green foods, and we're going to listen to Christmas music while we're in the pool. And they don't know this yet, but I bought some Christmas presents. I'm going to wrap them, and we're going to have a Christmas party today. And one of the things I want to share with her is that, I don't want her to feel like I feel that she was anything less than supportive of me, because I don't want to learn lessons through her. She's the one that I talk about my lessons that I learned through other people with, our coffee pong that we play for hours in the restaurants. I don't want conflict with her. I don't want to learn through her. Heather and I, oh my God, we learn through each other so amazingly. And I marvel at it. It's like I thank her. Thank you for having this fight with me. I always put it in quotes, because if I had had that kind of interaction with my husband, it would have been like a 2-day screaming blowout. She and I, we get through our stuff. I mean, it could take hours. Maybe it's like a whole day, just because we need to think and process, but there's never shouting. There's never angry words. There's never name calling. There's never abuse. It's just so cool, calm, collected, and respectful. And we both feel it very, very deep in our hearts. We both hurt. We know that we are triggers for each other. I recently supplied one for her, and it makes me feel like such a shit. I hate it. But we're both so quick to forgive one another, because we understand that we are meant to grow through each other, because she and I are twins too. We share a vibration, and we meet each other's needs. We are a yin yang to one another, a yin yang. But it's just such a pleasant one that even the fucked up shit just feels good. It makes me cry. I feel so grateful for the opportunity to learn, evolve, grow, express myself, fight in such a constructive and respectful way. That's how all relationships ought to be. She's amazing. We are amazing together. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm going to review this video, and then I'm going to go wrap my Christmas. I got them socks. Everybody loves getting socks for Christmas. They all got socks. All right, you guys. Thank you again for allowing me to grow through you, and I'm nervous to post this one. I said, not nice things about somebody, and it was my truth. It's my truth. So you guys are equally welcome to share your truth. All right, thank you.